We are back on Get Up. Our next stop is New Jersey. The Jets' offense was abysmal Sunday against the Broncos. They scored 9 points. Aaron Rodgers was sacked 5 times. The offense committed 5 false starts. Coach Robert Saleh questioned postgame if Rodgers' sophisticated cadence is right for the Jets. Rodgers responded by saying the cadence isn't the issue. The players need to be held accountable. All of this caused our Damian Woody, sitting right here in this room yesterday, to lose his ever-loving mind.
What the hell is going on, Robert? And I'm talking Robert Saleh, the head football coach of the New York Jets. This team looks sloppy. They look inept. I can't even use the word I want to use right now. BS. Figure it out. Aaron Rodgers is absolutely right. Maybe if the guys had some discipline and stayed there behind on sides, maybe Aaron Rodgers could use that weapon to his advantage. But I'm so sick of the Jets being undisciplined as a team. It's been that way since Robert Saleh has been there, and it showed up yesterday against a team starting a freaking rookie quarterback.
Yep.
It's unacceptable. It's a bad freaking loss, and I put that strictly on the head coach.
Weren't they like super great like a week and a half ago?
That was so beautifully said. I mean, he said it so exactly right. I'm sorry, but I got emotional just listening to it because he happens to be 100% right. Aaron Rodgers, who talks infinitely more like a coach than the coach does, said all week, how is this team going to handle prosperity? How are we going to handle coming off a good week on a long week when everyone is kissing our behind and telling us how great we were? And then we saw it with the stupidest of undisciplined penalties left and right. It isn't just the 5 false starts that the coach said, well, I guess maybe we can't use the cadence anymore, which is one of the 5 dumbest things I've ever heard anyone say in my life. But the other thing is they've got all these like taunting penalties. They do things stupid teams do. And that is, you either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. So I 100% support, co-sign, and stamp as appropriate every word and the tone that Damian Woody brought to the table yesterday. Someone else say something.
Yeah, you guys are working some stuff out.
Let me say this. Let me start with this. I appreciate the effort both of you put into bashing it. I'm pretty sure I'm old enough to remember that Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers were going to handle the offense,
right,
and Saleh was going to handle the defense. Okay, Saleh's side gave up 10 points and about 70 yards to that rookie quarterback that Woody so blatantly put it. Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett had 18 pressures. They had 5 offsides. They had 10 penalties offensively. I'm not really sure I'm laying this at the feet of Saleh. Now, the comment was stupid about the cadence. I appreciate that. You can't say that. He should not have said that. But as far as laying this loss at Saleh's feet, you bring in a quarterback that you believe is going to score more than 10 points every week. They didn't get it done offensively. Their offensive line got boat raced. They brought pressure off the edges. They had no answer for that. I can't just say I'm putting that all on Saleh. That's a complete effort right there.
And maybe Saleh's having a hard time holding players accountable, but we cannot pretend as if they haven't undercut him every step of the way from the time when they brought Aaron Rodgers in.
People like Greeny?
Everybody. Aaron Rodgers has obviously, when he got here, he was the coach, the general manager, the mascot, and their Lord and Savior. And now all of a sudden, now we want Robert Saleh to hold everybody accountable. Robert Saleh, I'm not going to argue that he's a great coach, but he's held this defense together over the course of several years, which is why he was there. And when you got Aaron Rodgers, we expected it to be like when the Bucs got Tom Brady. We no longer needed, Byron Leftwich was there, like when the Broncos got Peyton Manning. Like, yeah, they had an offensive coordinator, I think, but it was Peyton Manning. We expected the same thing that happened here when you brought Aaron Rodgers over. So when we have a good week, you guys score a lot of points, and Damian Woody's like, yeah, I wish they were fully healthy. We want everybody, everybody to play. Aaron Rodgers, look at Aaron Rodgers, vintage Aaron Rodgers. And then when Aaron Rodgers puts up 9 points, we say that the coach doesn't hold them accountable. The coach doesn't have them disciplined enough. Like, okay, fine, maybe the coach is not the right guy, but this isn't the week to say it.
Nope.
When you scored 9 points, this is not the week for us to say, you know what, the defensive-minded head coach is the problem.
Right.
Look, I'd like to address the Jets fans and D. Wood and whoever. Look, this stuff is hard. Like, you cannot, this is another case where Brady wrecked it for everybody, right? You cannot just add quarterback and now a team that hasn't made the playoffs since when?
2010.
2010 is now a playoff team. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. They were really good in week 3 against the Patriots and deserved all the nice things we said about them then. They were really horrible on Sunday and deserve all the lousy things we're saying about them now. The fact of the matter is we will know by the end of the year whether Robert Saleh is a coach that can get a team to the playoffs. We will know by the end of the year if Aaron Rodgers is still the guy that can lead an offense to the playoffs. We're going to know that, but the Jets are a work in progress, and anybody who thought it was already a finished product was kidding themselves. Right. It's going to take some time. The quarterback didn't play last year.
We saw Aaron Rodgers lead them down at the end of the game to get them in position to kick a game-winning field goal, but who expected them to be in a tight game like this with the Broncos?
They're an 8-point favorite.
Yeah, the Broncos defense is very good, but you expected to be able to score enough points. So, yes, those penalties at the end of games, they put the nail in the coffin. But the rest of the game, Aaron Rodgers and that offense built that coffin. And it just feels uncomfortable to then at the end, like, oh, we're undisciplined. Yeah, you are. Yeah. You're the one who came in and was supposed to fix it. And while last week he was talking about we don't need to do OTAs, we don't need to do all this stuff, this is the stuff that Tom Brady did. These are the things that you get under control during those periods.
Stress is not winning Super Bowls. That's what it is. That's what stress is.
Exactly.
Not winning Super Bowls.
Or bad sign. Domonique, the Steelers lose their first game of the season to the Colts. Was that a bad game or a bad sign?
It was a bad game, but honestly, I think it was a good sign. We saw some more growth from Justin Fields at quarterback. He attacked the outside. He was more creative. He still isn't turning the ball over. I think it was actually kind of an encouraging game for them, despite the fact that they lost. Without a couple of, improbable turnovers, I think they might have won this game.
Reality is he's won over everybody but Jeff Saturday. I'm still working on Saturday. Graziano, Packers fall way behind and then fall short at home against Minnesota. Bad game, bad sign.
Bad game, and not even all that bad. I mean, this was Jordan Love coming off of an injury, maybe showed a little bit of rust. They were down 28-0. They fought their way back into it, made it interesting at the end. I think the Packers, when they see the Vikings next, will be prepared, and I think that'll be another close one. Again, bad game and not too bad.
Yeah, played without their best corner as well, Jair Alexander. Jeffrey, Eagles blown out in Tampa. Bad game or bad sign?
I'm going to say bad sign, but not just for them getting blown out, for what the remarks made by Hurts after the game. That's the truly bad sign.
All right, so let me jump in on that really quickly. I want to make sure everyone has heard them, then I'll let you make the point. This is what he's talking about. Jalen Hurts, you're going to hear the question in here. He was asked about what sort of dialogue he will have with head coach Nick Sirianni now that they go into their bye. His answer raised a lot of eyebrows.
You and Nick are obviously big voices on the team, the head coach and the quarterback. As you enter the bye and you want to find an identity, do you two talk about maybe what you want the message to be to the team, or how you kind of want to handle as you guys go into the second part of the season?
We have our moments.
We have our moments.
It's a strange answer.
What did you make of that?
Yeah, that to me just shows he has no respect for Nick Sirianni. I mean, when you talk about, you are the voice of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the bottom line. Kelsey's gone, Fletcher, the big four, whatever they call core four, I think is what they called them with all the leaders they had before Hurts got there. But he now was the voice of the Eagles. And when the quarterback and head coach aren't on the same page, that's a bad sign for your football team, because you're struggling. Now, listen, I didn't expect them to go play well against Tampa, for whatever reason, has their number. But when you come off of a game like that, and the response or the question is, what's the message to your team going to be? And it gets to we have our moments. That's not a ringing endorsement for where we're sitting as a football team.
I think those comments are a signal of the fact that there are issues on the field. You don't make those comments if the defensive line dominates the way you expect them to. You don't make those comments if you're able to handle the pass rush the way you're anticipating. Those comments are not just because it's happening now, it's because they feel like they don't have the hope or perspective. You can have a bad game, but they've been having bad games since last season. It's been a long stretch of really bad games, and when you don't have the answers and you don't feel as good as you should feel, I think that's when those comments start to bleed in, or that's when those feelings start to bleed into the way that you talk to
Can I say this before too? Because this is not a knock on Sirianni, because I said last week I felt like Sirianni did a good job for them to go down and beat it. This is not a knock on it. The issue is those two. I'm not saying whether you think Sirianni is a good coach or not a good coach, should have a job, not have a job. I'm talking about when those two positions in particular have issues, it is a tough place to overcome for
But
a
neither
football
of them are doing their jobs well.
Right,
to be
that's
fair.
my point. Yeah, yeah.
Sirianni's not doing it well, neither is Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, they have a lot to sort out. I mean, obviously they were feeling really good and saying nice things about each other after last week's comeback win over the Saints. Everybody felt good around the Eagles there, but even that was kind of skin of your teeth, kind of barely. It needed to win and did. They have a bye this week. I think that's probably a good thing. They need to get healthy, right? He's playing without his top 2 receivers and his right tackle. Right? In a year where he's already learning a new offense, a new center, like there's a lot going on with Jalen Hurts. I think when you talk about the issue, though, with Sirianni, I mean, like, head coach of the Eagles has not really been like the most stable job, right? Since it was Andy Reid, who's a top 2 or 3 coach of all time. I think you see the guy that won the Super Bowl, the only Super Bowl they've ever won, was gone like 2 years later. So like, if Sirianni if this is the kind of stuff that's being said about him this time of year, it's hard to see unless they make a deep playoff run, him coming back next year to coach the Eagles.
Here's the bottom line. We never stop talking about how talented they are, how good they are. Everyone keeps telling me they believe in them and all the rest of that. I sort of go back to the Bill Parcells thing. You are what your record says you are. In their last 11 games, they're 3-8.
Right.
They've won 3 of their last 11 games. Something is not right.
So the extent to which last season fell apart is obviously the concern was, would it linger into this year? Has it? I don't know. Like, right? What they've been this year is inconsistent. Right, and you're counting on young players in that defensive front 7 who they have a monster game against the Saints, not so good against the Buccaneers. They're inconsistent. They're young players. That's the way it works with young players. So yeah, I don't think we know what this Eagles team is, or if the problems that did them in last year are what is causing the problems this year. I think that's the question. We're going to find that out.
That's what I was about to say. The problems to me don't look the same from last year to this year. The issue for me this year is the injuries. Not having your Jalen Hurts, for whatever you think about him, I don't think he's necessarily going to go carry your squad to 10, 11 wins, right? He's going to need those guys. Brown being absent is a massive loss. Ben Smith and then Lane Johnson, obviously a big deal. Your 2 best players on the field being Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, and you're not really running the QB. The pressure's getting home. All of those things mount to issues. And again, a new defensive coordinator, so you got problems.
And the other thing, and maybe we can set aside a little time for this a little bit later, the reality is that for whatever reason, the quarterback just doesn't look right? I mean, the rocket ship to the moon that he appeared to be on 2 years ago, and I've had a lot of people sitting in this room say, when last seen with Shane Steichen,
there it is.
He was the best player on the field in a Super Bowl that included Patrick Mahomes. And he hasn't looked like that since.
No, it matters. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
We've been looking for a lot of answers, looking for a lot of reasons, and they've been trying to solve it a bunch of different ways. But that's one way that they can't go back to.